Good evening, everyone. It's Kimberly, and we are back in the workshop. We're still working on this project that we are continuing from Thursday last week. So if you are new here and you've just stopped scrolling, thank you for joining us. I am Kimberly with Unique Finds and Furniture Designs, and I feature Dixie Belle chalk paint in our workshop series that we do. So this piece came in last week, been working on it and done some different things to it, and tonight we're in some of the final phases of this rehab. So to begin, if you are new here, we began this project cleaning with the White Lightning cleaner, and that is a powder cleaner. We put it in a spray bottle, we mix it with a little water, put it in a spray bottle, mist it and clean it with a good cloth and get all of the wax or stuff like that. If you guys were following me on this tutorial workshop video last week, you will have seen that when this was already previously painted at one time, when we did get it wet, some of the paint started peeling off. So we had an issue with that. So sometimes that's the case. So we had to do this one a little bit differently. I don't always drag out a sander, but in this case we did drag out the sander. We did have to pretty much take off all of the chalk paint that was previously on it. It was an unknown brand, and that's no big deal. We just had to do a little different step. Normally we don't really have to ever get our sander out, because most of the time we're working with varnished pieces that have stained and varnished over the top. In this case, it was paint. So we did do our cleaner. I did have to remove the paint off of this piece and then kind of start all over from scratch. And hopefully you guys can kind of see. I can kind of back her up a little bit. So we did end up taking all of the handles off of it because it had handles, not necessarily hardware. And so took all the handles off. My client's going to put new handles, new hardware on it. And we also took the embellishments off that are on here. And I'll just kind of tilt you down so you guys can kind of see what I'm talking about. So this piece had some embellishments on them. They were up high. They were bumping as the drawer closed. So when we removed the handles, I ended up removing the embellishments and moving them down a tick, so that they would be uniform to the piece. So we did all the drawers, got those all reattached, and now we have put a couple of coats of Dixie Belle's fluff. That is kind of our, that is kind of like our farmhouse white. So that's what we painted it in. Let me put you up on my chair so it's sitting up a little higher. So the white in this piece is the fluff. And then the gray that you see on the top is the hurricane gray. So we've got the gray and the farmhouse. Well, it's our Dixie Belle fluff, but it's our farmhouse white, if you will. So it's the closest. And I also did a scallop mirror similar. You can kind of see her leaning over here in the background. So that we did in cotton. So I did end up taking the paint off of this as well. Just kind of bring her in here. So this was kind of, let me just put it like this. So this piece was done with that old school, what do I call it, antiquing. So I did have to get some, actually took some steel wool. This is actually a plastic frame on this mirror. So I took some steel wool and I did get all the paint, all that antiquing, if you will, off of it. It was almost like it was metal on there, and I did get all of that off using the steel wool to remove that. Then after I did that, I did apply this. Hey, how are you? And hey, Landry, or Miss Clemmy, if that's you there watching with us, thank you for joining. So yes, I did end up taking this all the way down to the bare and found out underneath this is a plastic frame. So I did end up putting our, let me just grab it real quick. Where are you? Here. So I ended up using And you know, when you're working with slick surface, or if you're working with plastics, or you're working with glass, you want to use the slick stick. So that's what I used. And the slick stick is going to make that surface so that when I paint it, it's kind of prepping it, it's priming it, it's getting ready for paint. Especially when you're working with a plastic surface, or a laminate surface, glass, tile, any kind, like old kitchen countertops, what is that, Formica, any of that type of stuff. If you want to paint that, you're going to use your slick stick first. You're going to clean it really well, which is what I did with this piece. And then you're going to come in, you put your slick stick on, let it dry overnight. I always say overnight, let it dry overnight, just to be on the safe side. I know on our cans it says 2 to 4 hours. I do overnight. And then I came in and I painted 2 coats of the cotton. So that is our whitest of white, and that's what this is painted in. So we've kind of had our work cut out for us. So here's the cotton color. So it's our white. Now this here is our kind of a farmhouse vibe white, and this is our white. So this one for my client is going in a bathroom. So these 2 pieces are not going to be together. So this is going in her bathroom. That's going, she's actually using that piece. I'm going to set that back down. She's actually using this piece as a vanity, believe it or not. So, I think she has a mirror for the back of it. I'm thinking somebody in her family must have built this for her, and this is why she's refabbing it. So if you caught that live, that video, last Thursday, you will have seen all the square handles that we took off of here. We're going to embellish it with some new hardware. We painted it with the fluff. We came in and highlighted on the detail with some of our hurricane gray. So this is a little bit darker gray. And what tonight's workshop tutorial is going to be us applying, or me applying, the top coat to this project. So, excuse me, this is gator hide. So we're going to apply some gator hide tonight. But before I applied the gator hide, I did put some clear coat satin down. So the reason I did that is a couple of reasons. One of the main reasons is when you work with a dark color, be it hurricane gray, caviar, chocolate, any of our dark Bunker Hill blue, a Yankee blue, any of those really true dark colors, when you work with those colors, the clear coat satin is my choice for going over the top of those. The reason being is it locks in that color. And because a lot of people will say if they put gator hide over those dark colors, they feel like it changes the tone of the paint. And so this is a way to get around that when you're working with dark colors. So I want my color to be true to itself. And in order for that to happen, I always put a clear coat satin down anytime I work with dark colors. Now I did clear coat satin all of this as well. This is a top coat. It's clear, you can't see it, and it has just a very fine sheen to it. It's not real glossy. Now our gator hide that I'm about to apply over the top of this, then I'm also going to put it on the mirror because that's going in a vanity, in a bathroom. So anytime anything goes in a moist environment, I'm going to want to gator hide it. We're talking kitchens, we're talking, and it's our polyacrylic, so it's very tough. So I'm going to use it over the top of this as well, so that I know, since I know she's using this as a vanity and a makeup counter and that sort of thing, you know something's going to get knocked over. Perfume's going to get knocked over, makeup, you know, different things like that, liquid makeup, nail polish, the works. You know, when you're using something like this, like that, you sit here and do her nails, whatever the case may be, I'm going to make sure that I put a polyacrylic over the top of it. That means that she's going to be able to clean it up. So I did come in and put my top coat down. So I put a coat, sometimes I put 2 coats of the clear coat satin. That's just going to ensure that my gator hide goes on smoothly, and also it's not going to move my color around. So just a little tidbit of information. If you're new working these products, you've never used them before, that's a real big one, because I get a lot of people asking that their color seems to change because they're using the gator hide. You do want the polyacrylic because it is what it says. It says gator hide, and you know what that means. The hide of a gator is very, very tough. It's water repellent, that sort of thing. So obviously we want to put them on our countertops, on our vanities, on tables, anything that you know you're going to be spilling some stuff on, and water rings in that nature. So that's why I am going to come in here tonight and apply that. So what you're seeing here is just some of the end results of the application of the colors. So I'm going to pull the video up closer, and hey Matt, how are you tonight? So I'm going to pull it up closer, and I'm going to get this gator hide on this surface. Now, this being a polyacrylic, I'm not going to wet my brush. A lot of times when I do all of my other products are water-based products. Our acrylic is not, because this is a polyacrylic. And the rest of them are water-based top coats. That's the big difference. So when I'm working with a gel stain, if it's a water-based gel stain, I'll dampen my brush before I apply. If it is a regular gel stain that is oil-based, I'm not going to wet my brush. That's the big difference there if you guys are kind of new to it. So just a FYI for you there. So I'm going to pull you in, I'm going to stand up, and I'm going to start applying this gator hide. I'm going to turn my fan the opposite direction. Have a little fan running in here. It's nice today, and I tried to bring in some of that cooler air. But I don't want it drying my products quicker than I can apply it. So I'm just going to move that, and I'm going to move you guys closer, and we're going to get involved putting that acrylic on. I'm just going to kind of turn that out of my way, and I'll bring you guys in closer. No need to see me. I just want you to see what we're doing here. And thank you for jumping on with us tonight. Hopefully you will be able to see this. And let me see if I can squeeze in behind here and get this out just a little bit more so you guys can kind of see what I'm doing. And I'm just going to get my gator hide open and get going on it. Just kind of save this last trick. Now, if you're working with I want to say if you're working with caviar, which our caviar Midnight Sky, those are our blacks. So if you're working with a black, even your Bunker Hill Blue, I would suggest putting this in a little bowl and dropping a couple of drops of your color in it. But since I'm not doing that tonight, I've got a clean brush here. Wish I could get you guys up a little higher, but hopefully you'll be able to see, maybe get you on an angle there so you can kind of see how this application's going on. So I'm gonna just kind of get going. I kind of dip my brush in there. I am using a flat mini for this, so you guys can kind of, and I'm just gonna come in here. I go in with a very light, now it's gonna add a little bit different I want to say finish to this because the polyacrylic is a little shinier. Now I'm not going to say it's a gloss, but it is not a flat and not quite a satin. So I'm just going to come in here and just, you see, I'm just kind of adding my brush strokes, just kind of going right along. Normally I try to start right in the center of a piece and work my way out to the edge. But I definitely want for this young lady to be able to use this and not worry. And I worry anyway, but I know our products are good. It's just kind of the way you do when you're doing it. I'm just kind of going to apply this acrylic, and I have to wear my glasses so I can see. So I'm just going to get this a thin. If you are heavy-handed, maybe a brush is best for you because you want to put this on in a thin layer. I'm going to walk around it. I'm going to start here. I normally start right here in the center and kind of work my way out. Hope you guys can see that. If you can't, just let me know. So I'm start in the center and work my way to the edge. And then we have a sponge that you normally I'll put it on with a sponge on a big tabletop. But if you can back off your brush, and what I mean by that is just not put so much pressure on it, just have it really light. You can hit this with barely touching it, just barely going over the top of it, and it will hide your brush strokes. Kind of show you that while I do it. So first I get it on, kind of come in the center and work my way out. That's just my way. Everybody has a little different. And I work in small sections. I don't try to do the whole thing at one time. That's better if you work in small increments versus trying to do it all at once. Then I come back in and just kind of bring those brush strokes off. And a lot of people say it starts drying before they get it where they want it. I haven't had that problem, but if you miss anything, light coats, thin light coats is the best. If you feel like you missed a spot, let it go. Just finish your piece and come back tomorrow. I always say overnight, let it dry overnight, and come back tomorrow and hit it. Don't try to hit it tonight, because a lot of times what you're going to do is you're going to be trying to move something that's already trying to dry, and it's going to mess up your top. So I always say, if you've never used our gator hide, which is polyacrylic, do somewhere where you are getting your experience on the back side of something, where you're not doing it on your flat surface first. That way you kind of get the hang of it. You back off the brush. That means not putting as much pressure on it. Just kind of getting it on there as thin as you can. Thin strokes is best. So you see it's not taking me very long. And I move rather quickly when I'm doing the polyacrylic. Because like I say, if you feel like you missed any spots, move on. Don't try to go back over it, because sometimes you'll pull it. And it's always, for me, I always say it's most important is make sure that your paint is dry overnight, so you're not sliding your paint. If your paint's only a couple hours old, this polyacrylic might slide your paint. So just bear that in mind. Now you see I got it all over it. So I just kind of come in right at the end and I just barely run that brush. You could spray this. I don't have a sprayer. I have a sprayer, but I don't like it. So I'm going to get a different one. So you could spray this conceivably. And then I'm just kind of coming back over. I'm not going back over that because I can already see where it's starting to dry a little bit. So don't go back over your work. Just let it be enough and let it dry. That's all you got to do. It's just that simple. I wanted to do the gator hide because I know a lot of people shy away from our gator hide because they're afraid. They're afraid that most of the time if you have it messing up on you, it's too thick. You're putting it on too thick versus putting it on rather thin. Very, very thin, multiple layers is your best bet. And so I will put a second layer, maybe even a third layer. Very, very thin layer. So it's really, I don't think it's a big trick to it. But again, the biggest trick is if you're working with really, really dark colors, mostly black or the, and I kind of make sure that I come back over it so I don't have any, puddles, I guess I want to say. And you can do it very, very lightly. I really back off the pressure on my brush. And it's a wonder. I weed eated all day today, so I can barely hold my brush off of there. But try to get very, very thin coats. And so if you're heavy-handed, I think the best thing for you to do is use the sponge, because you can back off your pressure maybe a little bit easier. For me, I use the brush often. Now, if I have a large table, I'm going to use this sponge. I'm going to take this instead of dipping in it. I'm going to take it, pour it in a little bowl, little plastic bowl, or a little paper plate or something like that. Dip my blue sponge in it. I was wondering if I have one back here. I don't see it back here. And it's a blue sponge, and that's probably your best bet if you're new to it. And if you're heavy-handed, because if you're heavy-handed, you're going to leave all kinds of brush strokes in your work. And you can kind of see how it's gone on nice and even. And I will let this dry again overnight. And I'm checking to make sure I don't have any runs or anything. And this would spray on really nice, like I said. And so that's pretty much the end. of that. Just to show you guys how I apply. If you wanted to apply gator hide on a dark color, black especially, maybe add a couple of drops of your paint color into your polyacrylic, stir it up, and that will help keep your color really true to the color, to the tone. I see a couple of spots where it's drying and it almost looks like if you kind of think, oh, I missed there, I might want to grab it and hit it, but just kind of don't touch it. Just let it dry up. Let it hang out there overnight. I'm going to go clean my brush, and hopefully we'll be back in here on Thursday and show you something new and get this out and get ready for our next client. So I hope this tutorial helped you guys working with your gator hide. Hope you all have a blessed evening. Look forward to seeing you again in the workshop on Thursday. Until then, we'll see y'all later. Bye for now. Thank you so much for viewing.